Morning, everybody. So today we're actually in Mahoning, USA. I wanted to be able to show you the three-phase VTA. This is the HMVC, popularly known as the Costco version. You will find them in a lot of Costco's and in some grocery stores. Three-phase power has 4 wires, and there is an arrow in the inner hopper that shows you the direction of the rotation of burrs. It's counterclockwise. You want to verify that your burrs are spinning counterclockwise. If they aren't, then you would have an electrician swap the 2 wires in the outlet. It is possible to swap the 2 wires from the power cable, but also you should have an electrician or a technician do that. Okay, so we're going to real quick go through calibration and show you how to get to the burrs so you can clean those out, and maybe explain how to clean the pathway of coffee real fast. Okay, first thing we do, just to show you, grinder has a vibration plate down here. This one's nice and quiet. We're going to unplug the grinder to be safe, and we are going to go ahead and loosen these stainless knobs. It's lefty loosey, righty tighty. Take off the 2 clamps. This is a brand new machine. These have never been off. You'll notice they say, I did hit the camera, sorry about the wiggles. Unten, that means down. So unten goes on the down side of those clamps when you put them together. Once you have that off, you want to make sure you don't lose your lid. Got to take the adjustment handle off. Some of the older versions, it doesn't unscrew, it just passes through. Alright, give it a little smack to dislodge it. So, this is an extended hopper, and that's the inner hopper. It's a little hand protector and magnet in there, catch any debris. This donut sits on the top of the grind chamber and keeps coffee from building up on there. And this is the adjustment ring and the top of the grind chamber. If you will notice, there is a hole in the foam about 3 inches away from the adjustment lever, and that's a 5mm hex or Allen key. And what that does is unlock this keyway and allow you to move that back and forth freely, so it's not moving the burrs. That way you can adjust where the handle lies. I'm going to show you how to calibrate, but we'll do that when we put everything back together. For now, what we want to get to is these 4mm Allen screws. There are 3 of them, so you have to move the adjustment collar to get to them. And when you're doing that, you will notice that on the back side of the grind chamber there's a little aqua colored switch. That is a safety switch. If you do have power applied to the grinder would not run unless the top of the grind chamber were on in the correct position so that it's mashing down on that safety switch. And we move that over, we can access the last one. Okay, so if the grinder isn't new, sometimes coffee oil will make things stick. You will notice over here there's a little beefed up portion of the lower grind chamber and a little bar. That is a pry point that you can pry up to break free of the bonds of the oil. This is a new grinder, but you'll see they get tested, so it has a little bit of coffee in there. Sometimes you will find a 10mm nut, sometimes you will find different sizes of hex key or Allen head. Alright, so once you're down to the burrs, sometimes in a grocery store type situation, people will pour their coffee in the grinder, get something out that they did not want, like maybe it's too coarse, and they will pour it back in, move the grinder to a finer setting, pour it back in, and when you open this grind chamber, you will find these burrs completely caked with coffee. When that happens, I tend to use either a stainless brush, because on the many of these grocery store Costco versions, these are tungsten carbide burrs, and they're good for a very, very, very long time. But you sweep them out, and when you sweep them out from the inside to the outside, what you're doing is you're actually cleaning the pathway of the burr, because it's that outer edge that's doing the final cutting. The inner edge that feels really sharp is just breaking the beans down. So after you clean everything, one of the things that after you clean the burrs, sometimes you find that you have a need to get down just a little bit lower. We sell a burr puller that will pull this carrier. This is it right here. You would screw it into these two screw holes, which are placeholders. We're going to do a video on a single phase VTA from the garage, and I will show everyone how to use this. Okay, so once you're in the grind chamber, you have your burrs clean, you have your grind chamber vacuumed out. You'll notice on the outer edge of this carrier there are these two sweepers. They're connected by two screws on the bottom side of that rotating plate, and if those get bent or broken, they need to be replaced, because they are at just the right angle to sweep the coffee out of a spout hole in the front of the grind chamber. And if you're experiencing clogging, when you clean those burrs, you need to clean that spout very, very well. That area right there can get clogged, so much so that the next person that pours their beans in, even if you have cleaned the burrs out, the coffee has nowhere to go, so it'll just clog up again. On the Costco version, you will find a difference of a different spout from what you would see on the other VTA models, and on and off buttons. And those on and off buttons have 4 screws on the front that allow you, if you take the vibrating plate off and the spout stuff off, then you can take the 4 screws off and pull that whole plate out. This button on the outside is an actuator, and on the inside there's a little gray tab that holds a micro switch. Those are separate pieces. The micro switch is actually turning it on and off. The outside buttons are just actuating that micro switch. You can also get to it by removing this bottom plate, and when you do that, it's very easy to see. You can see them from the top, so quite often I can use a pair of hemostats or long needle nose and maneuver those back into place. But if they come all the way out, the best thing to do is remove the spout cover, the spout, the vibrating plate, and the 4 screws that hold the plate that has the on and off switch on. Okay, we are going to put the grind chamber back on. So be careful, some of these older models have a little magnetic feel to them. When you line everything up a little bit, you'll hear the safety switch click. Okay, that little half moon device covers it. That means you're very close to having the screw holes lined up. There's 1, there's 2. They are 4 millimeters, so we're just screw these back down, not too tight at first. We're going to come back and make sure they're all snug. Alright. You also, if you move that adjustment ring while you have the top of the grind chamber off, you have to make sure your burrs don't stick together, like if you screw them down too far. I can see the burrs are starting to touch right over in this area, which is where it would be calibrated to very fine. So to show you real quick, this has a piece of foam on it, which keeps beans and stuff from getting into the grinder if someone were to miss pouring them in the top. But to show you real quick how that works, this one does not have the foam on it, and you'll see I drew a line right here between the two pieces when they were locked together, and when you unlock them, you're able to move, and then when you lock them, it moves the adjustment ring. Okay. So to go ahead and finish putting these back together real quick, don't forget to pass the adjustment arm through the grind scale there. Got to get it to seat. The clamps go down in the Unten position. Careful not to cross thread. And I like to tell people not to over tighten, but on these particular clamps, they should be tight enough that a passerby can't loosen them, just because. Okay, so the idea here, we're going to plug in, because I am actually going to run the grinder to calibrate. First, we're going to verify that we're all good. Kind of put it on a course setting. On, off. Okay. So, what we are going to do is unlock the adjustment ring, get a bigger bite on the burrs so that we can verify that we know where chirping is. And then we're going to make that chirping happen. We're going to make chirping be just beyond number 1, so you can't go fine enough to make the burrs touch each other. That's the first step. Alright, so run the grinder, loosen the adjustment ring, get a bigger bite on the actual top of the grind chamber that's doing the adjustment, move it towards fine. That's burrs chirping. Back it off just a little bit, loosen the adjustment ring, and move it over to number 1. That puts us at Turkish grind. However, for a grocery store or Costco situation, that will cause you to actually have your burrs clog up as soon as a customer grinds an improper material or tries to pour their coffee back in. So we're going to move over to number 4 or even number 5, which is a pretty fine cone filter auto drip. And then I'm going to unlock the adjustment ring and move that back to 1. What that just did was it made, we're going to turn the machine off now, it made the finest setting on this machine cone filter on the adjustment. And that makes it pretty fine for a home user, but if you are going to trust customers to use the equipment, you kind of have to hedge your bets. All right, that's pretty much it for calibration and burr cleaning. Look at the other VTA videos that I will put up to learn how to get a little deeper into the machine. On regular VTA, there's a lever instead of on and off buttons with a more complicated moving spout mechanism that has a bag holder, and we'll try to show everybody how to get to that. All right, have a good day, everybody.